Welcome to the POMcast with Stephen Willis. Now we're going to do things a little different. We are going to provide an honest look at Ole Miss athletics for the fan, by the fan, and of the fan. That is what we do. Hell be to me. I'm just kidding. Tune in for some Ole Miss sports news. We're going to give it to you straight. Yeah, right now. The POMcast starts now. It happens now. Holy cow. Listen to me. It's starting. Well, it's going to start right about now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the POMcast on this Wednesday, December 23rd, 2 days away from Christmas. Hope you're enjoying it right here. I'm Stephen Willis, your host. And we got a little bit to get to today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Auburn search and how there is a greater than zero chance that they watched the Potato Bowl yesterday and thought, hey, why don't we try Brian Harsin? And it just all worked out. That doesn't eliminate the fact that until that point it was an absolute dumpster fire. Don't let anybody tell you any different. It was a dumpster fire. It is a dumpster fire. And they got Brian Harsin, who's been trying to get out of Boise State, or basically get Boise State out of the Mountain West for a couple of years now. There's emails of them like wanting to join the American, but there's a whole big thing where Brian Harsin wasn't happy. Auburn got him. Good for them. It should be fun. It still is not to the level of a drastic improvement over the Gus Bus, but that is okay. Also, fun fact, because I know that's why you tune into this program is fun facts. Auburn is replacing Gus Malzahn with the same person that Arkansas State replaced Gus Malzahn with 7 or 8 years ago. So Brian Harsin just follows Gus Malzahn around for jobs. So that's kind of funny. And we basically have that. Ole Miss won by 47 points, I believe 92-45 or 90-43. I forget which one. I'll get that by the time the second segment hits. It'll be up. And it was a really good game. Lots of defensive pressure. Like I said, like I told you last week, it reminds me of the Rob Evans teams from back in the day. The team is just superior on defense. They struggle on offense, but it clicked a little bit yesterday. You saw some three-pointers starting to go down, and you saw Jarkel Joyner turn into the scorer that we all thought he would be. So that was good to see. We'll talk about that in segment 2. Segment 1 here, though, is about basically the ends justifying the means. Like, you can have a dumpster fire search if you think it turns out okay. And that's not just the case. The dumpster fire is a dumpster fire. And you can't change that because you got lucky. Remember, Auburn has the horseshoe anyway. Once they have the golden horseshoe, they're good to go. Now, I like Brian Harsin. He's a good coach. I mean, he's been trying to get SEC jobs for a year or two now. He wanted the Ole Miss job. He wanted the, not the Mississippi State, the Arkansas job. His name came up. And then their dumpster fire search, bungled it. But he was the, in case of emergency, break glass guy of the last couple of years in searches, especially after Mike Leach got hired, because that was a dumpster fire as well. And they were about as bad. This search was about as bad as the Tennessee search that netted Jeremy Pruitt a few years ago. The difference is this netted Brian Harsin. So we're going to see a little bit of the future if Jeremy Pruitt can pull his way out of this. So that's one way we can look. But Brian Harsin, it's a good hire, but it was a terrible search. It was unbelievably comedic, and I'm sad it's over. Anyway, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis or at Old Positively. You can catch us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. And of course, you can catch us at YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell at Positively Ole Miss. That way, whenever we start streaming here in a couple months, you'll be notified as well. And of course, if you're a Twitch user, you can follow us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. If audio is more of your thing, you can definitely do that through Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. We're on all of those. Leave a review if you would. 5-star. You can just say what you want to say, but just please make it 5-star. That'll help with the algorithm when people are searching for Ole Miss. Also, we're on smaller podcatchers, but it would take forever to read them all off, so we won't. But that's the kind of the genesis of today. Ole Miss beat Tennessee Martin by a good bit yesterday, and Auburn hired a football coach, Brian Harsin. And he was the emergency break glass, and he was they basically were shamed into hiring him. And that's good to see. It's not saying he's not a good football coach. It's not saying it's not a good hire. But the process that led them to that point was just a comedy of errors. And we shouldn't forget that at all. So that's what we're looking at today. So in the second segment, we're going to talk about the Ole Miss basketball win, about the Jarkel Joyner and all the guys that really played. I really like Romello White. Devontae Shuler didn't score much. He didn't have to. The threes were going in yesterday, and that just helped out. Also, a federal judge granted an injunction blocking the University of Iowa from dropping women's swimming for the 2021-2022 school year for Title IX reasons. That is interesting and worth following for people that are thinking about saving money by dropping sports. It might not happen, as Title IX is on the books and needs to be followed. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And what else do we have? Mention the date. Mention the Ole Miss game. Mention the Auburn search. I think that's about it. All right. We'll catch you in next segment. The POMcast. Stephen Willis. Stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, welcome back to the POMcast. I'm Stephen Willis. Thanks for listening today. We're talking all about all kinds of good stuff, including Ole Miss's 90-43 win over UT Martin yesterday, the last game before the Christmas vacation. They called it the Christmas vacation game, gave away the Cousin Eddie hats to those in attendance, so that was pretty cool. But we saw a little bit different. We saw Romello White not start in the game. Robert Allen got the start and went for about 12 minutes. Romello White went nearly 20, so I don't know if it really matters. But the leaders in the game, the two leading scorers, were Jarkel Joyner and KJ Buffin at 16 points. Matthew Morrell, that's good to see, in 24 minutes got 13 and 1. And Austin Crowley went 11 and 2. Both of them went 3 for 5 from 3. Ole Miss as a team shot 40.9%. Their field goal percentage overall was 59.3. And they struggled a little bit at the line, but that is because, I'm looking at it, looks like a KJ Buffin thing. He was 1 and 4. And those 3 misses are the difference between shooting 80% and dropping down. KJ Buffin ended up 16 and 6. And Luis Rodriguez went 5 and 9. Romello, what did you do? 8 and 5. So overall, a good team game. It really was. Everybody scored except John McBride, who came in for 2 minutes at the end. And the main takeaway you come away from that game thinking is how suffocating the defense was, how the vice was, and how nothing was easy for UT Martin. I mean, you're talking about the second half, they went on a scoring binge at 24 points after scoring less than 20 in the first half. So you mix that with an offensive production like they got tonight, and they were just, 90-43. They scored 43 points for the game. And Ole Miss got nearly 100. Ole Miss beat them by more than they scored. Ole Miss beat them by 47. UT Martin scored 43. So if UT Martin had gotten twice the production that they got, they still would have lost by 4. I mean, that's impressive. It just is. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Does it matter that UT Martin is not very good? No, not at all. But for this game, Ole Miss did exactly what they were supposed to do. Exactly. Maybe even exceeded that goal. Beating this team this bad. And in the process, shooters like Matthew Morrell and Austin Crowley actually advanced in three-point shooting. Between the two of them, they made 6 of their 9. The other one was 1 apiece. KJ Buffin, Luis Rodriguez, and Jarkel Joyner. Devontae Shuler didn't even shoot one. In fact, he had 6 points, played 22 minutes, and it's just like, okay. So we did this without Devontae Shuler. It's worth pointing that out. It's kind of coming into focus a little bit. UT Martin right now is 3rd in the Ohio Valley. The Ohio Valley has beaten one SEC team in like 42 attempts, but we're not talking about Tennessee Tech, who's 0-2 and 0-9. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about in their conference so far, they've kind of been what we expected them to be. Nobody's claiming they're good, but we did what we were supposed to do, and that was the main thing. All right, it was a good win for Kermit Davis and the boys. What else do I want to talk about? The Outback Bowl, Ole Miss and Indiana. I did a little bit of watching yesterday on Indiana, and I think we can break that down maybe today. I'm trying to think a little bit just to start it because I'm kind of excited and I kind of want to start going down that road. So maybe we can start that just a little bit early. So we will do the gamecast review of it. Matt Corral is at 29.95. He will probably go over 3,000 yards with his first pass. That'll be his 10th game, by the way, this season. 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 2001 for 282. Their quarterback is listed as the leader as Michael Penix. He's not expected to play because of injury. I have heard the backup quarterback is pretty good. He's not Penix, but he's pretty good. Jaron Ely, 147 carries, 745 yards. 9 touchdowns for him. And Indiana's leading rusher with roughly the same amount of carries. 137 carries, 462 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's Scott. Now, Ty Freifogel has 34 catches for 687 yards and 7 touchdowns. Ty, believe it or not, is the son of Trey Freifogel, who played at Ole Miss back in 2000, 2001, and kind of made it. But he's averaging 20 yards per catch. Ole Miss's leader at this point on this is listed as Elijah Moore. He ended up finishing with 86 catches, 1,193 yards, and 8 touchdowns. The actual leading receiver at this point is probably Jonathan Mingo. It doesn't look like Braylon Sanders is going to play. Kenny Yeboah is out. So is Elijah Moore. So it looks like the leader is Jonathan Mingo, and we just need to find this offense, by the way. If you watch boot camp, the offense, way back in the spring, me and Corey were going over. This offense is based around the slot receiver and the tight end. And Elijah Moore and Kenny Yeboah opting out at slot receiver and tight end puts this offense in a pickle. We need to figure out one of those positions to become the leading one to run our offense. Braylon Sanders was going to be that guy. He got hurt. He's not going to be able to play in the bowl game. We need a slot receiver. So you will see somebody play that role. And I think it has a chance to be Dennis Jackson. He's kind of the next man up. Jaden Jackson, maybe. They're not going to tolerate lack of execution from the receivers, though. That's the reason they played so few this year. So keep an eye out for that. Going over to the Pick Center, team rankings has Ole Miss losing 36.8 to 30.4, and Numbers Fire has them losing 37.3 to 29. The spread at this point is Indiana by 6.5 points and a money line of -250. The line has actually gone down. I think it started at 7 or 7.5. So it is getting betted down. So, points per game, Ole Miss 40.7, Indiana 30.1. Points allowed, 40.3 Ole Miss, 19.4 Indiana, their defensive team, their physical team. Total yards, Ole Miss 562.4, Indiana 358. Yards passing, Ole Miss 344, Indiana 258. Yards rushing, Ole Miss 217, Indiana 100. Offensively, they're kind of not there. They're kind of a weak offensive team, which is good because that means they're not explosive. It's Ty Freifogel and a bunch of dudes. Yards allowed, Ole Miss 535, Indiana 361. Again, a defensive team. Passing yards are allowed, 324. Indiana, 226. Rush yards allowed, 211 for Ole Miss, 135 for Indiana. That's what it's going to look like. Now, they're a physical defensive team. They're probably going to look a lot like South Carolina defensively. They're going to play some zone and some man, but they're going to be really sound on the back end of their defense. Kane Womack is the defensive coordinator, and his dad, of course, is Dave Womack and was the longtime defensive coordinator under Hugh Freeze. So there are so many ties between these two schools. It's ridiculous. Half the recruiting office and coaches on the field, all have spent time at Ole Miss and are now at Indiana. So that's kind of cool to see. And at the same time, you don't want to beat down on Grant Hurd at wide receiver coach or Jason Jones at safeties coach, but here we are. So it should be a good game. It really should be. Our defensive weakness cannot be glossed over. It's all about winning the game by outscoring the opponent. And if they turn the ball over, if they play less than clean, we're going to take possessions and probably the game. That's the way I see it. Now, in an age where you don't really play non-conference games, how good is Indiana? How good's the Big Ten? How good's the SEC? We don't know. We saw last night with BYU just beating the ever-loving heck out of Central Florida that you just don't know. Anyway, come back for segment 3. Tune in to lots more good stuff. POMcast, Stephen Willis, stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
Welcome back. Last segment of the day before you start your holiday weekend. Remember, be safe and take care of everybody around you. Welcome back to the POMcast. I'm Stephen Willis, right here talking about a little bit of Ole Miss and Indiana last segment, a little bit of Ole Miss and UT Martin last segment. In the first segment of the show, we went over Auburn's dumpster fire search, and just because they got away with it does not mean it was the right thing to do, and it was a problem. But Ole Miss is slated to play Indiana on ABC on January 2nd at 11:30 Central Time. That'll be 12:30 Eastern Time for anybody that has a chalet in Gatlinburg, so you know what time the game starts. And that means me, because in my old age, I am terrible with times, and the Eastern Central thing, going back and forth, the palatial Central Florida studios, kind of is messing with my head a little bit about the start time. So that's 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Ole Miss and Indiana in the Outback Bowl. The Citrus Bowl actually will take that time slot on January 1st. So that's something you can kind of keep an eye on as well. That's Auburn and Northwestern. We were talking about their dumpster fire search earlier, and they will be available. So we've talked about all kinds of good stuff. And maybe in this segment I'll just pontificate on what I think is we're going to see from Indiana. This isn't the what to expect episode, but it's kind of the beginning of the what to expect episode, and you can kind of check real time how my brain is working. Indiana is scheduled to go to a backup quarterback. Now, this does not mean they're going to be bad. I'm not saying that at all. What you can expect is they're not going to be very explosive. Now, against Ole Miss, I mean, we have seen players this season become explosive that wasn't otherwise explosive. I understand that. But I'm talking at a baseline level compared to what we've seen, they are not explosive. And that's fine. Like I said, it's Ty Freifogel and a bunch of dudes. And Ole Miss's defense, as you've seen, they let go of Deke Adams on the defensive line, and the graduate assistant is going to coach us in the bowl game on the defensive line. I expect, by the way, just a heads up, Jimmy Brumbaugh is going to get a look. He might not get hired, but he's going to get a look as he was DJ Durkin's defensive line coach at Maryland. And you just think that's going to carry on. And he wants somebody there that knows the technique. He wants somebody there that he's confident in delivering the instructions. They're fine on the back end. They need somebody on the front end. Because the way they're set up, I know I'm off subject and I'm all over the place, excuse me, is DJ Durkin handles the front seven, basically. Defensive line and linebackers, that's kind of his. And where Chris Partridge comes in is the back seven. Safeties, corners, linebackers, and pass coverage. Now, we have obvious flaws. We have linebackers that are built for the old school 3-4 defense, and Licky Henry and Momo Sonogo, and they're just a step slow. We have a very weak defensive line. That's been a problem all year. That's not going to go away before Indiana. And the secondary is basically paying the price for the first part for the defensive line being so weak. You can't play drop 8. Now, part of this defense, you're going to want to mix up your coverages. You want to play a bunch of things and kind of throw them off. But you can't play drop 8 because the defensive line can't generate the rush required. And eventually they will get there. I mean, you hope with our signing class, as you can see, they signed 2 defensive linemen from junior college, and Jamon Gordon and Isaiah Iton. And they signed Talik Robbins. They want Tawan Malone. They know the defensive line is a problem. But that affects what the rest of your defense can do. You can't give somebody 12 seconds to throw the ball. They're going to find who they want to find. They're going to find holes in the zone. People are well coached. You can't count on mistakes. So hopefully they will take this thing and actually grow. No, they do not need a change on the defensive side of the ball at the coordinator. They need to stick with it and not have Wesley McGriff, Mike McIntyre, and DJ Durkin personnel on one side of the ball. We need to get a personnel fit into this system, and then we can determine if the scheme works. No scheme works with the wrong players playing it. Period. You want your scheme to be flexible, but it can't be that flexible. There's something that needs to happen. Like taking Dink Jackson and putting him in linebacker, they're already faster. him running around in wheel or star. They're already faster, making plays against spread offenses. That's the point. We need to grow. This is a rebuild. Just because Lane Kiffin isn't talking about being in the wilderness does not mean we're not. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today. I am Stephen Willis. This has been the POMcast. And of course, I will see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Hotty toddy.